Joining us to break down the Denver Nuggets championship win, our friend Jack Armstrong. Well, not the prettiest game, but Denver closes it out in Game 5, and they roll through the postseason 16-4, just fundamental basketball that I know you must appreciate.
I loved it. Tonight was like bumper cars. I mean, it was just roller derby. I don't know how you want to describe it. It was as physical and as tough a game as you'll find, but nonetheless, the competitive spirit, the toughness, the grit of the Denver Nuggets, they finally, and it's tough to close out at home as much as people think it's, I just think there's so many distractions. They found a way to get through it.
Yep.
But to your point about going 16-4, they are a team in every sense of the word. They play the right way. There's great togetherness. Jokic and Murray in particular, they just make the whole thing happen with their ability to not only score, but more importantly, create for others and their selflessness. And they're a fun team to watch, and they are deserving champion. And
30 points, 14 rebounds for Nikola. Just another night at the office. I loved him at the very end. He's like, we won, we can go home. He's all business, right? He's all business. But, you know, not every great player wins titles, but it seems fitting that this guy gets an NBA title. And really, for Jokic, his career is just beginning when you think about it.
No, you're right. And, you could argue very easily that he could be the three-time NBA MVP. And some of it was voter fatigue. Joel Embiid's a wonderful player. But nonetheless, when you look at this guy, particularly tonight, Miami ran a lot of zone tonight. He did a really good job the whole night, being the quarterback within their offense against that zone, getting teammates high percentage shots. They had a difficult shooting night, but nonetheless, when they had to get him the ball down the stretch in the lane, he made huge plays. And he's a guy you just can't physically deal with because he just, people just fall off of him. He's so strong. He's got a great touch. He's a tenacious rebounder, great passer. And he can make all the shots, and he can make all the passes. But nonetheless, when you look at their team, it's a 1-2 combo.
Yeah, and the other one of the two is Jamal Murray, Canadian, Kitchener, Ontario. Didn't have his best game, particularly on this night. But at the same time, just through the whole postseason, really felt like he was back. And we think back to that devastating knee injury, and you wondered, would he ever be able to be the same player again? Which makes it ever so sweet that he's now an NBA champion, 9th Canadian to be an NBA champion.
And Jamal Murray, if anyone knows Jamal, he's a gym rat. He loves the game. He's got tremendous passion for the game, and he's a beautiful teammate. It's all about winning, all about team. And I tell you what, we talk about scoring all the time. You look at his playmaking during the course of the playoffs, particularly in the finals. He made all the right reads, and tonight, dagger shots. He made 2 big threes when the Heat were still hanging in there, and he really turned the tide of the game. His stage presence, his spirit, his toughness, and quite frankly, just rose to the occasion.
And teary-eyed at the end. Like, you can really see how much this meant to him, how emotional he was.
It's quite a journey for him. Yeah. And this is a team that will be around again and again. I mean, they've been building for this. Creep, crawl, walk, run. They play together. They play the right way. And it starts with their 2 great players who will do whatever it takes to win. And their secondary players play the game right. And Mike Malone did a wonderful job with that team. He's connected with his team.
He motivates them in such a unique way. Even yesterday, hearing Malone talk about, we got 3 games to close them out, but I want to treat it like we're down 3-1. I love that sense of urgency that he brings to it, right? Okay, we got some other news. You want to talk about a little Freddie VanVleet? Yeah, here we go.
You're going to keep me working, man.
I know. Our friend Adrian Wojnarowski, friend of the show, is reporting that Fred VanVleet has declined his $22.8 million player option. He will become an unrestricted free agent in July. The undrafted guard played his entire 7-year career with the Raptors so far, helping them win the title in 2019. He was an all-star for the first time in 2021, 2022. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that Freddie's gone, but what do you make of this news, and do you think Freddie's gone?
I'm going to accept my $22 announcer option, so you're stuck with me.
Yeah, okay, good. I'm happy about that.
I think it's business.
Yeah.
Bottom line. I mean, this is probably the opportunity. It is the opportunity for him for his best and biggest contract as a professional athlete. And because when you get into your mid-late 30s, you're not getting those types of deals. So for him, this is a business decision. You look at what the other 29 teams on the market are willing to offer and negotiate with you or try to set up a sign and trade scenario. And it also forces Toronto to put forth their best offer.
Yeah.
So to me, I think it's a win for him. And I think for the Raptors, they knew this was going to happen. They value Fred VanVleet. There's a ton of respect internally in the organization for him. So they'll sit down and have a big boy discussion and figure it out. And we'll see where it all goes. But to me, it's nothing to panic about. We knew all along that a Jakob Poeltl and a Gary Trent Jr. and a Fred VanVleet are going to be free agents. The other part of that as well is going into the last year of the contracts, Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby, there's a lot of potential flux here. So a lot of big decisions to be made. But Fred VanVleet, he will be taken care of, whether it be here or somewhere else.
There's no question about it. You know, my favorite Darko was always Darko Milicic, Jack. I love Darko. But
I don't know if the people in Detroit...
People in Detroit didn't like him as much.
That guy Carmelo was pretty good. Chris Bosh, a lot of guys. Dwayne
Darko.
Wade.
I felt bad.
But we love Darko in Toronto.
Oh, yeah, Darko is great. But Darko, the Raptors are hiring Darko Rajaković, assistant for the Grizzlies, as their new head coach. They'll make the big announcement on Tuesday. VanVleet, Poeltl, Gary Trent Jr., you mentioned it, all entering free agency. What does the Rajaković hire mean, in your opinion, in terms of the Raptors' direction this offseason?
I think a lot will be determined starting next Thursday on draft night. That'll be step one in terms of the maneuvering not only the Raptors make, but the other 29 teams in the NBA. And the impact that he can make is twofold. Number one, if you keep your roster together, this is a bright young assistant coach who's paid his dues, who's ready for the next step.
Yeah.
And now they feel very confident that he can coach a team like that. On the other side of it, if you decide to pivot and go in another direction based upon the 3 free agents, and as I mentioned, Anunoby and Siakam in particular going into the last year of their deal, they feel very confident in the fact that, hey, we have a guy who's a proven teacher, developer of young talent that can connect with guys and motivate and bring you through a period where you're restructuring your team a little bit. So, he's got a great reputation in the league, not only very well respected, very well liked. And I think for the Raptors, based upon where they are in their franchise direction, this is a good hire for them.
And Nikola Jokic said it on Monday, loves the hire, loves it. So that's a nice endorsement, I'd say.
It sure is.
I would also say that nobody had heard of Nick Nurse when he got I mean, we'd heard of him because he was assistant with the team, but I don't think people were overwhelmed by that hire when it was initially announced. Well, I think there was right?
It's an interesting point you make because I think too often in sports we try to win the press conference.
Yep.
Day one doesn't mean a blessed thing. So tomorrow is the press conference. It's day 2 and beyond how good you are in terms of your ability to teach, connect, motivate, and in pro sports now, the tactic, the X and O element of it is beyond that. You got to do the other things, and I think they feel right now that he can do all those boxes. It will not be easy. Your first time in a big market, but nonetheless, he's ready for it.
This feels like a classic Masai hire. You know, go out and find a guy that secretly might be the best guy out there. I love it. You're the best guy out there, Jack. This was a blast.
I took my $22 option, so you're stuck with me, Jay.
Yes! Straight ahead, Craig Button, who's also stuck with me, joins me from Calgary to talk about the Flames' new head coach, Ryan Huska, and the Jets' Connor Hellebuyck. Where will Connor be playing next season? We'll talk about it. That's next.